October 11, 1865, Morant Bay, Jamaica. Paul Bogle led hundreds of people to the courthouse, not as a mob. It wasn't a riot. It was an organized march. People who knew exactly why they were there and what they were demanding. They were demanding justice. They weren't begging. They weren't asking politely for scraps. They were demanding their rights as human beings who had been exploited, overtaxed, starved, and ignored for too long. And the response? Violence. The militia opened fire. People died. And in the chaos that followed, Paul Bogle and his people fought back. They called it a rebellion, an uprising, a riot. But Paul Bogle called it something else, justice. And for daring to demand it with dignity, for daring to organize his people, for daring to stand together, they hanged him. But Paul Bogle wasn't just fighting for 1865. He was showing Jamaicans how to fight with purpose, with dignity, with unity. Paul Bogle understood that justice doesn't come from asking nicely. It comes from demanding it, from being willing to stand for it, from organizing your people and saying, we will not accept this anymore. But here's the thing. Paul Bogle didn't just lead people into chaos. He led them with purpose. See, he was a deacon, a landowner, a respected man in his community. He understood organization. He understood strategy. He understood that power comes from unity. Before October 11, Paul Bogle didn't just wake up and decide to march. He organized. He met with people. He explained the injustice. He built consensus and he created a movement. So when he marched to Morant Bay, he wasn't leading a mob. He was leading organized people who knew exactly what they were standing for. They knew they were standing for fair taxation, access to justice, land rights, and an end to exploitation. This wasn't random violence. This was targeted resistance against systems that were destroying his people. And here's the thing. He did it with dignity. Paul Bogle didn't bow his head. He didn't shuffle his feet. He didn't apologize for demanding what was right. He stood tall. He spoke with authority. He moved with confidence of a man who knew his people deserved better. And that's what terrified them. Not the rebellion itself, the dignity, the organization, the unity. Because a disorganized, angry crowd can be dispersed. But an organized people demanding justice with dignity, that can change everything. And that's why they didn't just kill Paul Bogle. They made him an example. They hanged him publicly. They wanted to send a message that saying this is what happens when you organize, when you demand, when you stand with dignity. The message Jamaicans should have received was this, that this is what power looks like. The message should be, this is what justice looks like. This is what unity looks like. Now, look at what happened to that dignity, that organization, that purposeful resistance. You have violence, but it's not Paul Bogle's violence. It's not purposeful. It's not organized. It's not in service of justice. It's chaos. Jamaicans killing Jamaicans, communities destroying communities, violence with no purpose, no strategy, no dignity. You've forgotten how to fight. You've forgotten what to fight for. You've forgotten that your ancestors didn't just resist, they resisted with purpose. You fight each other instead of the system. Paul Bogle organized his people to march on the courthouse, the symbol of injustice, the system that was oppressing them. But what do we see now? Neighbors fighting neighbors, destroying their own communities, killing people who look like them, who struggle like them, who are being exploited by the same system. The oppressor doesn't even have to lift a finger. Jamaicans hurting each other are doing the work for them. The organization is lost. Paul Bogle didn't act alone. He didn't just wake up angry and caused chaos. He organized, he built consensus, he moved as one with his people. But what's happening now? You see isolation, division, everyone for themselves, no collective vision, no shared purpose, no unity. And without organization, you have no power. You're just individuals lashing out with no strategy, no coordination, no ability to create real change. You've lost the dignity. Paul Bogle stood tall, even facing death. He maintained his dignity. He knew his worth. He knew his people's worth. But now people internalize the oppression. They move like people who don't believe they deserve better. They accept scraps and call it opportunity. They bow to systems that exploit them. They've lost the posture of a people who know their rights. You've lost the purpose. Paul Bogle knew exactly what he was fighting for: fair treatment, justice, rights, better life for his people. What are you fighting for? Territory you don't even own, respect from people who don't matter, material things that don't fulfill you. There's fighting, but there are those who don't even know what they're fighting for anymore. That's what happens when you forget your ancestors. You keep the violence, but lose the purpose. You keep the anger, but lose the direction. You keep the resistance, but you lose the dignity. So, how do you reclaim what Paul Bogle showed you, Jamaica? How do you fight the way your ancestors fought with dignity, purpose, and power? First, you have to identify the real enemy. Stop fighting each other. The person in the next community is not your enemy. The system that keeps both of you poor and desperate and fighting for scraps, that's the enemy. Paul Bogle didn't march on his neighbor's house. He marched on the courthouse. He targeted the system. You need to do the same. Identify what's actually oppressing you and direct your energy there, not at each other. Second, organize. Stop acting alone. Stop thinking you can change things by yourself. Stop moving in chaos without coordination. Paul Bogle built a movement. He brought people together around a shared vision. He created collective power. You need to do the same. Find your people, build consensus, create shared goals, and move as one. Because know this, when one person demanding justice can be ignored, a community demanding justice cannot be ignored. Third, move with dignity. Stop accepting the disrespect. Stop bowing your head. Stop apologizing for demanding what's right. Paul Bogle stood tall. Even facing execution, he maintained his dignity because he knew his worth. You need to do the same. Carry yourselves like someone who deserves justice. Speak like someone who has the right to demand better. Move like someone who will not accept oppression. Dignity isn't about being polite. It's about knowing your worth and refusing to settle for less. Fourth, fight with purpose. Every action you take should have a reason. Every resistance should have a goal. Every fight should have a strategy. Paul Bogle didn't just fight for the sake of fighting. He fought for justice, for rights, for change. You need to do the same. What are you actually fighting for? What change are you trying to create? What world are you trying to build? If you can't answer that, you're just adding to the chaos. And chaos doesn't create change. It just creates more chaos. Fifth, stand together. And this is super important. This is the most important lesson Paul Bogle left you. Unity is power. Remember, he didn't march alone. He brought his people. And that's what made him unstoppable. You need to do the same. Stop being divided. Stop competing. Stop tearing each other down. Stand together. Support each other. Build collective power. Because the system can handle individuals. It can silence voices. It can break spirits. But a united people, that's what they fear. And that's what creates real change. Paul Bogle was hanged on October 24th, 1865. They killed him, but they couldn't kill what he represented. The Morant Bay Rebellion forced Britain to confront the failures of their colonial system in Jamaica. It led to reforms. It led to changes in governance. It proved that organized resistance works. Paul Bogle didn't die for nothing. He died showing Jamaicans that you have power when you organize, that you can demand justice, that dignity is not given, it is claimed. In 1969, over 100 years later, Jamaica declared him a national hero. Not because he was perfect, because he was courageous, because he stood for justice, because he showed what organized resistance looks like. That's the legacy he left you. So here's the question. Are you honoring that legacy? Are you organizing? Are you demanding justice? Are you standing with dignity? Are you moving with purpose? Are you united? Or are you destroying each other, fighting with no purpose, moving in chaos, divided and powerless? Paul Bogle didn't march to the courthouse so Jamaicans could spend the next 160 years fighting each other. He showed you how to resist with purpose, with dignity, with unity. Now it's time to remember. Demand justice, but do it the way Paul Bogle did, with purpose, with dignity, with organization, and with unity. Stop the chaos. Stop fighting each other. Stop moving without direction. Stand together. Identify the real enemy and fight with strategy. Move with the dignity of a people who know their worth. That's how you honor Paul Bogle. That's how you honor all the ancestors who stood for justice. Not by talking about them, by becoming what they were, organized, dignified, united.